Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello. Hello. Hi.
Okay.
Everyone all full for lunch? Yes? Everyone awake? Yes? Yes. All right. No? Did I hear a no? Everyone's just going to call you out. So good thing you're up front because Sharon and I are going to watch you.
Yep. Okay, we have 1 hour. We're going to get started right away. Demonstrating the need for teaching self-care and healthy relationships to prevent victimization. We all know the CMS final rule is telling us that we need to be out in the community. Is that correct? Does everybody know about the CMS final rule?
Yes.
Adults with disabilities, so that includes our transition age folks that are heading to 21. There will be no more day programs. There will not be, secluded environments. It's all about being out. My job is to keep people safe in the community. I work for ACHIEVA. We work with adults with disabilities and transition age. Our goal is to be out in the community, volunteering, having a meaningful life, and being safe. So many of our folks with intellectual disabilities and autism need to learn. It's a skill set that has to be taught. So here we are today. Catherine Hughes.
That would be me. Hello, I'm Catherine, or most people just call me Kathy. I am proud to be the Director of Family Support and Community Engagement at an organization called Achieving True Self. We support 3 states, including Pennsylvania. And I am also a blogger and author known as the Caffeinated Advocate. As you can imagine, I drink a little too much coffee on a daily basis.
No.
My most important role is being a mother. I am the mother of a 21-year-old on the autism spectrum that also has mental health comorbidity. So I'm going to be sharing a lot about my son's story. He has disclosed his diagnosis publicly as a young adult, and so he's very well aware I do share some of his stories in public. And I'm really excited to share personal experiences as long as we're, being interactive and, that you're learning from it. That's, what's important to me. So I'm excited to be here, and we're going to jump right in and get started. What's on your heart, Sharon?
Everybody has a pink heart in front of them. It's for you. It's almost like journaling, blogging. When we go through this presentation today, you may at some point have something that comes back to your memory. It may trigger something, it may make you sad, it may make you want to remember something. That's for you. Write down on your heart if you have any feelings come up or any memories. If you want to share them if we have time after, great. But that pink heart is just for you. We want to make sure that you have something in front of you if something comes to mind that you want to write down.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
So we only have an hour together. Sharon and I have presented multiple times in multiple settings, and we're really sad that we only have an hour with you, but we're really going to try to make the most of it. We're going to be going over a few key things today. The first is about adulthood bullying. We're going to talk about what bullying looks like in the workplace or in post-secondary settings, that often people are targeted if they have autism, an intellectual disability, or a mental health condition. So we're going to review adult bullying. The second thing we're going to talk about are current statistics about what's going on in the workplace and people who are victimized both as children and adults with disabilities. We're going to talk about different topics that we need to address throughout the lifespan. We're going to talk a lot about 2 key things with that when it comes to self-care and healthy relationships. We're going to talk about the how-to and the value. Those are 2 key takeaways that I want you all to take with you today. If you get nothing else out of it, remembering the how-to and also the value.
Talking there.
It's not working.
You can't video with that.
Okay. Technical difficulties. Can you hear? Okay. It keeps shutting off on me. So we're going to talk about, again, the self-care and healthy relationships piece, and also we're going to talk about basic human rights. And Sharon and I are both very informal, so please, if you feel like you need to get up, use the restroom, stretch a little bit if that's the type of learner you are, please feel free to move about. And also if you have questions, something that's burning and you'd like to ask while we're presenting, please feel free. We are more than happy to try to answer as many questions as possible.
Adult bullying. So we all know what bullying is, or do we not? So we remember with bullying, first thing I want you to remember is when you're younger, it's usually more physical, could be emotional. Adult bullying is very, very verbal. Verbal is one of our biggest as far as statistics will say. Another goal of adult bullying is to gain power. So when you're young, a lot of times bullying happens to fit in, to be cool, to make someone laugh. That usually doesn't happen with adult bullying. It's generally to actually gain power. It's humiliating for victims. And it's something that we want to be able to teach strategies so that you know what to do if you as an adult are being bullied.
Right, absolutely.
So did you know?
Statistics are scary.
Yeah, statistics are scary. Just looking at the outline, the states right around there, that's 15 states that are in color. Just in those 15 states, 65 million workers are affected by bullying. So when we talk about bullying as adults today, I'm not only talking about workplace, I'm also talking about at school, I'm talking about being out in the community, and we're going to talk about tactics and the 4 different tactics of what adult bullies look like. But that's a really big number there, 65 million workers.
Absolutely.
Anybody have a comment?
Has anyone's loved one been bullied in the workplace or in even a post-secondary setting?
Okay.
Raising hand, yes.
Got a couple back there. Okay.
Okay. Anyone that wants to share any experiences with the room? Again, please don't feel like you have to share anything, but if at any point you'd like to share a story and use your story to help somebody else, please feel free to do so. Yes, in the back.
Bullying happens online.
Yeah.
Yes, we will be talking so much about
Yes.
online bullying with social media and apps and texting. Absolutely, it's huge.
And he literally is still reeling from what happened, because I think he's still trying to process it. Because individuals with autism, well, maybe not all autism, my son with autism is very concerning, helpful, and very, in a sense, to say, go with your speech.
Sure.
Yes. May I ask how old?
He is 23 years old, and we walked him through a lot of online stuff. So you have to
Yeah.
kind of tease out the idea that, okay, he has autism as
Yes.
he becomes a teenager, looking
Yes.
for friends.
So we have a 23-year-old. We're going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about empathy. And empathy is a big reason online bullying does happen. So thank you for mentioning it, because
Yes.
that's good. We're going to hit you right there with that when we get to that point.
Absolutely. My
Yeah.
son Christian, as I said, he's older. He's 21 years old, diagnosed again on the autism spectrum with some comorbidity. He actually, unfortunately, has been a victim of workplace bullying, and it resulted in him moving on to another position because his manager didn't take him seriously. And he was bullied by another colleague, and then another colleague targeted him due to social media messages. And what happened was he didn't quite understand social media etiquette, which again we're going to be talking about in a little while, about social media and apps and empathy. And because he didn't quite have that know-how and understanding of how those nuances work, he was targeted, he was accused of harassment, and lost his job from the most disability-friendly employer in my area. So we've unfortunately been there, done that, but I'm happy to say he has secured another position where he's thriving and doing very well. So there is definitely hope.
So key findings. What we want to kind of talk about a little bit is there's a 2014 national survey. It's called the Workplace Bullying Institute. You can find that online. What it is they define what bullying is. And that's something you want to remember, because a lot of times people get bullying and harassment mixed up. So bullying is defined as repeated, and that's the key word, repeated. Repeated mistreatment, abusive conduct that is threatening, abusive, humiliating, work sabotage, verbal abuse, and this is also consistent with the Healthy Workplace Bill. And a lot of companies do have the Healthy Workplace Bill. It's actually only in 25 states. It's been introduced. You could probably talk a little bit about that.
Yes, it's been introduced in Pennsylvania. It was last introduced in 2017. Now, for those who aren't as active with advocacy or not as knowledgeable with policymaking and how bills become laws, they have to be introduced in the House and the Senate and then go to the governor's office. So, unfortunately, this bill has not passed, and it hasn't had a lot of co-sponsors so far. Last in 2017, it only had 10. So to give a comparative example, I'm involved with legislation for behavior analyst licensure, and we have almost 100 co-sponsors. So to give you an idea of, why it's important to use your voice and share your story, if this is something that has affected you or affected your loved ones, and it is important to you, it's important to go to your legislators and to speak up. They don't know your story if you haven't shared it with them. So if this is something that has affected you and it's important to you, I would suggest going to your legislators and asking them about the Healthy Workplace Bill.
So the statistics also show that bosses do the majority of bullying, and I thought this was an interesting statistic.
Does that surprise anybody?
Yeah.
That it's mainly the bosses and not just the colleagues? Who finds that surprising? Who doesn't think
People
that's
are like,
very
nah.
surprising? No? Power trip? Is that what we're seeing? Power trip, lack of knowledge?
We'll talk about the four
Yes.
kinds of bullies out there in a minute. 72% of employers will deny, discount, encourage, and rationalize or defend the behavior. Again, there's really not much you can do. We will talk about strategies. So as we go along in our presentation today of what you can do as far as being bullied as an adult. Okay. Anybody have anything about questions about these statistics?
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about what the research is showing. So we're going to be talking a little bit about suicide. I hope that is not something that is triggering for anybody in this room. If it is and you would feel, please feel free if you need to get up and walk away and take a break, because I know for some folks that triggers some pretty deep thoughts. So I just wanted to preface with that. But research shows that persistent bullying leads to feeling very isolated. You feel rejected, excluded, it's very depressing, and because of all of those, it can lead to suicidal behaviors. Now, the vast majority of young people are not going to be affected in that way, but there are many young people who die by choice of suicide, and they may have a diagnosis, but one does not equal the other. The second point that is very important is not to assume, especially with younger students, we're always quick to assume that bullying was involved, right?
Or bullying is the reason.
Yes, exactly. And that's not always the case. So we really want to be careful about the narrative that the media is putting out there, that every young person who dies by suicide is a victim of bullying.
There's the media uses bullicide.
Has anyone ever heard that term, bullycide? Anybody?
If you hear that, shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're trying not to get that word out there because there really is not, it's just not accurate, and potentially most suicide.
It's more harmful than good.
Yeah, it does not happen from bullying, so it's important.
What's the suicide rate among people on the autism spectrum?
I don't know that answer. I don't know.
That's a very good question.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. I am not sure. I would not think it would be very high. And I'm only thinking that because of autism, and you think about hidden curriculum and theory of mind.
And premeditation.
Yeah,
the
I don't.
planning that goes into it. If it was, I would say it would be on, the Asperger's end, if you will.
Yeah, it's a good question. I
Is
don't
there
know.
anyone that does happen to know? If there's anyone in the room that does happen to know, please feel free to share.
We're gonna have the
We have a
lady over
friend.
here on the right look
We have
it
our
up.
friend. What is your name, ma'am?
Our names are Moira and Michael Ann.
Maura and Michael Ann. Okay, well, if you find that, please feel free to share.
The statistics.
All right. Thank you. It's great to have help. So research also shows some other very scary things. So in general, 1 in 5 women are raped within their lifetime. But people with disabilities are at such higher risk. And this is why it's so important to talk about self-care and valuing oneself and knowing healthy relationships and safe boundaries. Because people living with a disability are at so much of a higher risk of being sexually victimized, whether it's in schools, whether it's in a college setting, if someone's away from home, in a group setting, in the workplace, out in the community. Much higher risk. Men who have disabilities are more than likely not to report it. Does that surprise anybody? Anything surprising about these? And this one, children with intellectual disabilities, 4 times as likely than those without to be a victim of sexual abuse. Any questions about these statistics at all? Yeah, Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Hey!
Yeah, these statistics don't surprise me, but I've seen the reverse bullying because my daughter has 2 male aides, and I
Yes.
get questioned constantly about the fact that she has 2 male aides. So it's kind of bullying back because these aides are awesome, they're the best ones I've ever
Yeah.
found. But because they're male and she's 23, and they're young, they're in their 20s.
Sure, yeah.
They get a lot of discrimination from people who don't understand that these guys are amazing with her.
Yes.
And they would, they'd both bring die to protect her. They're
Yeah,
just
I'm
so
sure they would.
effective. You know what I mean?
So do you?
I just want to throw it out there that the reverse bullying situation is out there for people
Yes.
with disabilities, that if you have a female with a disability with a male working with them, people really jump on me. Are you sure about that? Do you think that's a good idea? How much do you watch them and stuff? Wow.
So many assumptions.
So you're saying that you may go through, I'm repeating the question for you because we're doing that because we're videotaping. You think there might be reverse bullying going on. Your daughter has 2 male aides, and people approach you all the time and say, is that okay? Now, again, it's not bullying unless it's repetitive. So if it's the same person that's repeatedly saying that to you, otherwise it's a little bit more of harassment, I think.
And it sounds like there's a lot of jumping to conclusions,
Yeah.
right?
From people who
From,
are at
Yeah.
county levels and
Yeah.
it's like,
so you're hearing it from professionals at county levels.
Right.
Okay, I understand.
Yes, absolutely. I will get right to you, ma'am. What? Here, I'm going to give you the mic and you can share. How about that?
Okay, so we found that there actually is no specific statistic for an age group on the autism spectrum, but it does say that because of some co-occurring conditions that people with autism tend to have, there is a greater risk for suicide and thoughts and behaviors.
Yes,
Interesting.
Thank you so much. And that talks about, as we said, the comorbidity and how that can play into suicide, but it is not, again, an equation.
We've heard horror stories about the bottom one. Children with intellectual disabilities are 4 times as likely. Have you ever heard awful stories about the bus ride? I mean, we've all heard stories, if these kids aren't able to talk and defend themselves, it is our job to teach them strategies of how to be safe. So,
Right.
You had a question over here?
Right here.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, like, with a, female with, disability, well, I mean, I'm not, but like, with a, female with disabilities having a, 2 male aides about her age, I just think it's strange that, one may get harassed about that, but not about, perhaps, a male with disabilities having 2 female aides. And they're
Repeat
like,
that.
oh, look, he's a ladies' man.
Exactly.
You have to
Look at
repeat
that
it.
conversation. What she was saying was, if there was a male that has several female staff, he's a ladies' man. He's the man. Look at him surrounded by all the ladies. But when it's a female, it's, well, look at all these men surrounding her. Is that a good idea? We don't consider the male that, what if the male were being harassed? We are so quick to assume that it's the other way around, right?
Right. So we're going to show you some funny pictures, but they're kind of real. So
Yes.
when we go through these, think about, and this is from the Workplace Bullying Institute as well, but these are about adults as well. We're talking about, there are 4 different kinds of adult bullies, okay? There are 4 different kinds. The first one is the screaming Mimi. How come you take the van out to take people out in the community, you come back with an empty tank, I'm over it. I'm tired of it. And all you out there listening, I'm tired of your stuff too.
You embarrassed me.
Are you embarrassed? Why are you embarrassed?
You have no right to talk.
Do your job. Done.
Done.
There's your screaming Mimi. That's the one that is going to hurt. They're going to humiliate you. They're going to yell at you in front of people, and everybody around's going to hear it, and they're going to be a little scared too. They're going to be like, whoa, that's how I know to put gas in the vehicle before I go out in the community.
Yeah, I'm not
Because
gonna get
I
that
just heard Kathy get yelled at.
Exactly.
So, anybody know a screaming Mimi?
Has this ever happened to someone?
Parent,
Yes.
teacher,
Yes.
anybody, a coworker, a friend, anybody, somebody that you just, a neighbor, somebody that you hear all the time screaming and yelling. Does everybody know someone in mind? Mm-hmm. They're out there.
Yes.
It's a control factor. They make physical threats. They might invade your personal space. That's a screaming Mimi. Okay, the constant critic. Constant critic. Well, I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to take that proposal you gave me. I asked her to write me a proposal. Just take it back. I don't want it.
Do you want me to rewrite it?
Yeah, I don't need you. Unless, if I have to do it myself, I don't need you. Right?
What can I do to make it right?
Do it again.
Oh.
Just do it. Fix it.
I had something else I had to work on today. I don't know if I'll get to
Not my circus, not my monkey. Get it done. Okay? The constant critics, okay? They're the micromanagers. They're devious, very, very devious. They may make you out to be a liar. You told me you'd have it done. I don't care that you had something else going on. The deadline was noon. That's a non-negotiable. I don't care. So you've got your constant critics, okay? They get inside your head. They destroy your self-esteem. They just make you feel like you're not worth it. Generally, they're going to do it in private. This is going to happen in private settings, not out there for the whole world to see. Okay? Not out there for the whole world to see. Anybody have any questions about the constant critic? About 29% of adult bullies are the constant critic. The screaming Mimi was only about 9%. Okay? The two-headed snake. This is the highest adult bully you're going to see, about 36% of the two-headed snake, okay? They are two-faced. Okay? They're backstabbing. They cannot be trusted. They control your reputation by smearing you to others, okay? So it's peers and superiors, really just everybody thinks that you're pretty much no good because they just talk behind your back all the time. This is an adult. This could be a friend, it could be a neighbor, again, it could be a relative, it could be anybody, okay? They think they create crazy making and maintain a pristine image. They're perfect. Nothing's wrong with me. All day long, I'm perfect. She's the one that screwed it up, not me.
And she's going to go to everyone she knows, and she's going to tell them that. The word that comes to mind with this is gaslighting, is essentially what that is. Everyone familiar with that? Mm-hmm.
Yep. So in the adult world, any transition age kids going up into the adult world, has anybody seen any of that?
Yes.
Yep. And then we've got the fourth one, and this is the gatekeeper. About 26% of adult bullies are the gatekeeper. They're the ones that won't let you get into where you need to go. They're the ones that will not provide you the skills that you need to be successful. Example. Go ahead with your example.
So, I'm trying to think of what I was
We were talking about the money one.
The money one, yes. So the lack of being able to spend one's money. So I know of someone in the community who is in a group setting, and this young lady is not able to use her own funds because they have control of how she manages her money, even though she has a wish to be independent. They control where she goes, how she spends her money. So she has that gatekeeper in front of her that is preventing her from living a life well lived that she chooses.
She's being denied money, access to her money. She's being denied access to time. And it's not because of legal reasons or a guardian. It's just a skill set that she wants to learn. But that gatekeeper, I'll take care of it for you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I got this. You're good. Yes.
How are people getting away with it?
How are people getting away with
That's
it
a
is
very
the
good
question.
question.
It happens. In the adult world, it does happen. And it happens to people with or without disabilities. There's always that. It happens at work. It happens at home. If there's a skill that somebody doesn't have that they want to learn and they don't have somebody providing that to them to help them, they're called a gatekeeper.
Right. And this is why it's so important for us to talk about what we're talking about today, which we'll get into the healthy relationships and safe boundaries and valuing oneself, because until we can teach our loved ones to be advocates for themselves and how to access other advocates and resources in the community, this is going to continue to happen, and people are not going to be able to make independent decisions.
Okay.
So we have some research here on embracing healthy relationships. So the first one is about social deficits. So they negatively impact several things, right? Acceptance, communication, psychosocial development. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, about sexuality, relationship building and intimacy, and having those healthy relationships. It impedes judgment, so private versus public. We're going to give you some examples on that. Who is it okay to speak with about very intimate things? Who are those trusted adults? And how and why to manage your personal hygiene and your wellness. Individuals with autism are much more likely to be victims than to be offenders. Not to say that that doesn't happen. And individuals with developmental delays are 7 times more likely to be sexually assaulted. Did anyone know that statistic? Is that a surprise to anybody? No? Any questions on these? Okay. So we're going to spend some time on this slide, giving you some examples, and we love to hear some stories from the audience as well about the deficits that exist for someone with a disability, which is truly going to lead us into that why of why it's so important to teach and to help them find value. You're hearing me say this repetitively like a broken record, but this is truly the key to understanding teaching healthy relationships and self-care. So the first one is about bathing, showering, and dental hygiene. So it is very common for someone with a disability not to know either how to take a proper shower, why we shower daily, or how to take care of your dental hygiene. Sharon, do you want to give your example from earlier?
Yeah, so think about it. If we really need to teach our folks that need help with this piece, dental hygiene I use as an example all the time. How many of you are afraid to go to the dentist? So if you think about it, if you have somebody that's in high school, they're starting to interview for jobs, they're starting to get out in the community, they don't go to the dentist a lot, they probably have pretty bad breath. Well, unless you teach them about dental hygiene, they're not going to they may go sit down at a job interview and they're going to be like, no thanks, because they have bad breath. Simple as that. Simple as that. So I think that dental hygiene is something that's really important. Bathing and showering, the same thing. That's why we wear deodorant. And again, when we talk about stuff today, it goes both ways. We have to teach our folks that they also have to be able to know if somebody has bad breath, not to say, hey, you stink, or oh God, you're gross, you
Social
smell.
filter.
Yeah, so at the same time that we need to teach somebody about dental hygiene, hey, you're going to go for an interview today, make sure that you chew a piece of gum before you go in and throw it out, because sometimes you haven't been to the dentist in a while, you just want to make sure your breath is fresh.
Right.
And that'll be great. And if somebody you're talking to has really bad breath, that's okay, just kind of do this and walk away. So we have to really, really teach that, because people with a disability may not know that piece and how to do that and what strategies to use.
Right, and I've also found it common that someone who doesn't understand flossing may have fear of using floss because they don't know to expect blood, and that may scare them. In the back.
There's a big piece there that wraps around sensory issues.
Yes, absolutely. So the showering, not being able to tolerate the water coming down on your head or that pressure.
Yeah,
Right?
we're talking about how sensory issues can make that happen too. Yes.
The drill.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So all,
Yes.
I mean, teaching them that and working through the sensory piece are really, can be challenging.
Yes, the sensory piece is very challenging.
Yeah.
We found that it was the chair that went back, because we were duplicating everything in Dennis.
Okay.
Except the chair. And then, I mean, from a kid screaming on the floor to sitting in a regular chair, she was fine, just toting back, as long as she wasn't in that chair that moved. She doesn't like amusement park rides and stuff. So once we decided that, now eventually it got to the point where they could lay the chair down, she could sit on it, let herself go back, but it made
Yes.
all the difference.
Yes.
Made a lot of sense.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So for those who didn't hear, Kim was talking about the dental chair and the moving up and down and not being able to tolerate that.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll just share a quick little story. We have an individual that we work with now. When he first came to us, we noticed an odor, and we're like, geez, are they like bathing? Are they, And so a staff had suggested, well, why don't we get him deodorant? Maybe he doesn't have deodorant at home. So they went out and purchased deodorant, and they say, okay, we'll go into the bathroom and put on your deodorant. And he'd go in, and you could tell he was using the deodorant, and then he'd come out, but he'd still smell. I'm like, geez, what is going on? Well, come to find out, he was putting the deodorant on his stomach.
Oh my
Because he
goodness.
didn't know it went under his arms. So, like you said,
So this was more of a how-to. This was a teaching moment, and this was not not valuing smelling good. This was I don't know where my deodorant goes.
And they call that hidden curriculum. So with
Yes.
autism, you got to teach them. That's called hidden curriculum. We just take for granted that he's going to know, right?
Right.
Of course we do, you know.
Exactly.
We just take it for granted.
so we had an individual who we had the same issue with. We tell them shower, bathe, all that stuff. So how does that not become a bullying then for the student? And telling them to listen.
Well, because it's all in the approach. You don't say, what's wrong with you? You say, what happened?
Right, Catherine?
What happened?
Bingo.
What happened? Oh, we may have forgot to put deodorant. It's all in the way you talk about.
Did we forget to do something? Did we not show you how to do this? Did we not show you where it was? Did we not provide it to you? Yes.
Yesterday, we were in a like seminar thing with the police officer. He was telling us, along with this other lady, saying that kids with autism don't know how to properly with the police.
Here, do you want to give her the microphone and then you could. Yeah. Is this one on? Okay, this one's on too. So we'll pass the microphone around.
Pass it on down. There you go. You're up.
I'm a giant germaphobe and everyone just touched this microphone.
That's a sensory issue. Don't worry about it.
All right, so,
Hey, you know what? You're doing good.
all right. So, we were in a seminar thing, if that's what you call these, the other day with a police officer, and he was telling us, along with this other lady, that, a kid with autism may not know how to properly interact with a police officer because, it may be scary or something like that, or they may not understand, the slang and commands that they use. So when he says, put your hands behind your back, she said that she's seen kids do stuff like this. Because is that not putting your hand behind your back?
Right, that's exactly what she did. Yeah.
That's back to hidden curriculum. We have to
Exactly.
teach them. We have to teach them. We take for granted that we know, that they know. Exactly.
Yes.
So does someone want to take this?
So that kind of goes into the next thing, the bathrooming and toilet etiquette, and it's funny.
Big one.
Kathy and I laugh about this because she's raised a son. And are there any moms in here that are single moms that have boys?
Mamas in the house? Who's in my tribe? Okay.
Well, Kathy, go ahead and tell them.
Okay, I'll grab my microphone back. Thank you, Caitlin. So, Christian, up until his preteen years, I was not aware, was not using proper men's toileting etiquette. Now, I'm not a guy, so I don't go in the men's room. So I wasn't aware that a few things were happening. Number one, he was dropping his pants at the urinal because he did not know that you unzip, but you don't drop your pants.
All the way down.
Yep. We're talking ankles.
Hold on. Yeah.
And that's what I think all of the functioning people do.
So repeat that for him.
Okay, so you said you think that everyone does that, maybe when they're younger, or?
When they're lower functioning.
Yes, absolutely, and that's really the whole importance of the teaching that we're talking about. Yes.
I'll try to speak louder this time. So, along the lines of that, with younger people and things like that, people doing that when they were younger. I've heard a story about a kid, and his mom told him he didn't have special needs or anything. He was just really young, 5 or so. And so his mom told him, when you go into the bathroom, you open the door, you use the potty, you wash your hands, and go in.
Little task analysis.
Yes.
So, anyway, what he did, at his preschool, I had heard, and she was just telling me this story, that, so what he would do is he would open the door, wash his hands, use the potty, then close the door, and then open the door again.
Oh, goodness.
But not in sequence.
Yeah, so everything was a little bit out of order. Yeah.
Keep in mind the door was open.
Well, Kathy got a call from the principal.
I did. I got a call from the principal. I'll get to you in just a second. I got a call from the principal, and I was coming in for the parent-teacher conference later that night, and he said to me, I hope you don't mind, but I had a conversation with him, because I want to keep him safe. I know that he is very vulnerable, and there are some things he's not aware of. And he noticed that 3 things were happening. The dropping his pants at the urinal was the first one. The second one was he was trying to talk to other people in the bathroom, and I remembered a story from 6th grade.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I didn't know this until, honestly, a few years ago. I'll fully call myself out. I didn't know that you gents did not have conversations and therapy sessions in the bathroom like us girls do.
Yeah.
I did not know, okay? Had no awareness whatsoever, right?
I didn't know we had therapy sessions in the women's.
I can see.
Oh,
Kathy.
I have.
Yeah. Well, we do. We put our, we do our lipstick and stuff. I can see Kathy in the bathroom with Christian every morning going in there, and he's probably looking at her like, "Can you get out?" And you probably had no idea.
Yeah, exactly. And, not only that, he also didn't know urinal etiquette, which was also, again, a few years ago, new to me. I'm not male. I wouldn't know. I didn't know that you don't stand next to someone, but you go,
One over.
You go at least one over or more. So if you're standing next to someone at the urinal, they don't know that you're not looking, right? He had no idea because I did not teach him, and I was not aware it was happening. Thank heavens that this principal took the time to spend with him to teach him what was appropriate to, number one, keep him safe, and to prevent him from being bullied even further.
Yep.
But he didn't know.
So,
Right.
Okay? The other piece I want to say is, it's really important to kind of, maybe we should think about assessing.
Yes.
What are the needs of that particular person?
Yes, absolutely.
With them to assess
Yes.
their needs.
Yeah,
Yes. Our next slide provides you with some resources on
Right.
how you can do that. It's super important to assess the need.
Because with Chris, it ended up being a teachable moment.
It was absolutely a teachable moment.
Right.
I think it's important to assess with the person.
But we overlooked,
Yes.
like she did. Who would have thought? You
I
know,
had no
it was
idea.
something that was overlooked. She didn't know how to
I
teach
was
them how to use the
completely
bathroom.
unaware.
It wasn't that it was assessed or not.
Right.
She just didn't think of it.
I was completely unaware.
And that happens, you're right, like you said, that happens with it can happen with any age.
It can happen with any, we can overlook.
Exactly. So that's why it's so important to start at that early age about teaching all of these values and all of these skills so this doesn't happen. So there aren't more Christians out there getting to high school and not realizing this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Because sometimes they pick it up as they're done, because they hit in the curriculum.
Yes.
But two people to recognize, I think important, would be Dr. Stephen Shore. I don't know if you guys.
Yes.
Sure.
Dr. Stephen Shore is a great resource. Yes.
Known very-
He has a video on that, like, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
This is how you go to the bathroom. So he did it as an adult.
Okay. Dr. Stephen Shore, he wrote Autism for Dummies book. He wrote that.
He also wrote Beyond the Wall, which
Yep.
is
Yes. Beyond the Wall is Stephen Shore's other book. It's a great, fantastic resource.
find him on YouTube too, and him
Yes.
on the website. And also where this showed up was also with I can't remember she had the movie.
Temple Grandin?
Temple Grandin.
Yes.
Showed it.
Love some Temple Grandin.
So in the movie, Temple Grandin goes to work, and her boss says, "Hey, you need to go take a shower."
Right.
And she
Yes.
wasn't thinking about that. So
Right.
it can happen. It's been out there. It's just some points to recognize.
Yes.
So I have to repeat this because we're on video. So you were just saying that there are a couple resources out there that are available, one of them being Dr. Stephen Shore and Temple Grandin. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll take one more comment and we'll move on.
Not to belabor the point, but there's also sensory integration issues involved.
Yes, absolutely.
As well as you have an eye on multiple disabilities.
Yes.
Maybe it's not real easy to unzip your fly.
Yes.
Fine motor skills, absolutely. I love that you're pointing that out. He's talking about sensory issues and having the ability, there could be something physical. It may be hard to unzip pants. Maybe the zipper is stuck. And, from a fine motor perspective, that may be more difficult for them.
Sure.
Hand dryers,
Yes.
flushing, all of
Yes, I see a lot of nodding.
and
Important to look at sensory-friendly bathrooms, right, my friend?
bathroom, you're doing this.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. There's a lot to be said for hand towels. Much more sensory-friendly.
So am I the only one that struggles with a teenage girl with period issues?
So she
You are most certainly not the only one.
repeat that.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat this because I love to see a show of hands to offer her some support maybe afterwards and have a chat. Who here is dealing with a teenager with a disability, whether it's autism, mental health, IDD, that's a girl struggling with puberty issues? Raise hands. Okay, you've got a lot of friends in here. You are by no means alone.
I'm a girl struggling with period.
Who in the audience is struggling with?
Whoops, I'm on video. Well, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of period, let's move into sexual knowledge. So this is something that's a huge struggle for people with disabilities, and this is a struggle for anyone typically developing, but it's so common that we have such oversight of teaching sexuality to people with a disability. Now, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to call myself out, and I invite anyone else to do so as well. Who here assumed that even at a young age, or getting older, that their loved one had no interest in a sexual relationship? I will call myself out. Yeah? Have a couple here willing to admit that.
So you had a teenage boy at home and you just thought, no?
Nope.
Nah, not my son.
Yeah. Up to about preteen, I thought, no, he doesn't have an interest. He likes being around females, but I really didn't think that that's what he was doing. I didn't think there was that interest because he's so rule-oriented and black and white, and he
Yes.
thought for the longest time that things of a sexual nature were just bad and breaking the rules, that I assumed he doesn't have that strong of an interest. not true. We are all human beings. We are all sexual beings, right? So these are all things we need to teach. And consent, as we're going to talk about in just a moment as we get down our slide, consent is huge. Consent is absolutely huge about giving consent and taking consent.
Giving and taking. And that's where we're back again to what we're going to be teaching somebody, we need them to also learn that that other person has that right too.
Right.
The exact same right. It's a human right. They have
Right.
that same right as well. What we teach you that you can and cannot say and do, how do you teach that person that the other person has the exact same right? So that's
Right.
something. You know, I can completely see why you would think Christian wouldn't, because he was so structured.
Yes.
And because he was so regimented. You know, I can completely see where you would think
broke
that.
the rules.
And now you look back and you think, really? How could we not know that? But at the time, I would have thought the same thing.
That's like breaking the law.
Right.
That's just bad. Those things are bad.
Weren't really ready
Drinking,
for that
sex,
next
these
step
are
yet.
bad things. So it was like a rule breaking. But my assumptions were clearly wrong.
I think regarding sexual knowledge, a thing that needs to be worked upon is not just focusing on straight sex, but including
Yes.
gay,
Yes.
lesbian, as well.
Yes.
'Cause even in
Yes.
the greater public education,
Yes.
they don't talk about that. So
Yeah.
also talking about that with people with disabilities.
You're absolutely right. And truly, you know, especially in the autism community,
Yes.
there are a lot more individuals who are coming out as either gay, lesbian, transgender, non-binary, as examples. So it's something we need to talk about. Not talking about it doesn't do any of us any good. Personal space. Anyone have loved ones that struggle with personal space? We start talking about this from a young age, right? Yes, very close talkers. And this is where some of that hygiene and self-care comes back into play, right? So the bad breath, the not looking clean, looking disheveled, right? Public versus private talk. So private talk could include things like secrets, where someone with a disability may not understand when somebody is having an intimate conversation with you that maybe they're confiding something in you that you're not supposed to be sharing. But they may go to somebody else. So as an example, maybe Catherine, you shared something with me, and then I go to Sharon. Well, Sharon's my friend. So, hey, I got to tell you what Kath told me last night. She and her husband, they aren't getting along very well.
Wow. I'm going to play telephone, and I'm going to go tell you over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if she wants anyone to know, Sharon, but I'm going to tell you because you're my friend and it's okay, right? They may not know. They don't understand that difference of what is okay to share and what is not. So we need to teach them disclosure, whether it's about their diagnosis or something that was shared with them. We need to have those conversations because they may not understand. It's another one of those things that, we've said it how many times, hidden curriculum. They don't understand that. Outside versus inside voice. And we all use this even in preschool, in daycares, right?
Yep. We use it at work every day.
Yeah. I don't always use my inside voice. Anyone who knows me knows that's true. Want to spend a couple minutes on social media and apps and texting. Scary? Yeah?
So who knows what empathy is? If you know what empathy is, raise your hand. Okay, can you tell me what it is? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thinking of someone and not just yourself.
Okay. Anybody else?
So she said thinking of someone and not just yourself is how she would define empathy. Yes.
Yes.
Whoop.
Well, it's just
They
knowing
could
what
even
it's like to be in the other person's shoes.
Knowing what it's like to be in the other
Be in the other person's
shoes.
shoes. Exactly. You want to comment? Were you going to say the same? About the same thing. Identifying with someone's feelings, absolutely. Anyone else have something to share? Everyone think the same thing? Okay, yeah, definitely putting yourself in that other person's shoes and being able to relate to them.
So here's the problem with social media, texting. So many, not in my day, because I'm 52, but now in my kids' days, my daughter's 24, my son's 18, everybody text messages, everybody emails. How many times have you misread a text or looked at a text or an email and
Every
you
day.
interpreted what it was? And then you get all bent out of shape, and then when you finally talk to the person, they're like, what? That is not what I said. How many people have done that?
That's not what I meant. How did you take that way?
Here's the problem. We're not looking at people's faces anymore. If you're not looking at somebody's face and seeing their reaction, how do you really know what they're trying to say? And that's the problem we're having with the teenagers now. Say it again?
We have emojis, yes.
We have emojis, yeah. Yeah, that's actually, we should teach people to use those because at least if it's a smiley face, we know that I'm not
we have
yet.
the emojis.
But
Yeah.
that's where empathy is really becoming an awful issue, especially when it comes to bullying. I'm a trainer for Olveus bullying prevention, and that's where we see the biggest part of bullying, cyberbullying, is that people just misunderstand each other. And as they're growing up, how many of us have little ones that we give them an iPad all the time? They're on their iPad, they're on their iPad,
play
they're
with
on their
mom's
iPad.
phone.
Yeah, my son could not get enough playing Xbox. And he'd be on there talking to people. I'm like, you don't even know these people. And you're listening, who knows what you guys are talking about, or if you're understanding each other, or misunderstanding each other. That's just, I'm not saying that we're wrong for doing it with our kids. It's just the way it is. It's just how it is now.
Right.
We have technology and social media. We're going to use it because that's the way the world is.
It's so accessible, and if you don't understand text etiquette and social media etiquette and know-how, you're not going to realize that once you hit send, it's everywhere.
It's gone. So I'm an Olveus trainer, and I was working in Hempfield Area School District in Westmoreland County. And my daughter, who's 24 now, she was a senior, 3 days of high school left. And great kid, super good student, athlete, lots and lots of friends. She was sitting up in homeroom, and she was on, I guess it was Instagram then. I don't know if they still have it. But and she sent a picture from homeroom to her friends, and it said, "Doesn't he look stupid?" And it was a kid from prom the weekend before smoking a cigarette. And she sent it over and said, doesn't he look stupid? He was wearing a tuxedo smoking a cigarette. I get a phone call from the school principal. "Well, Greene, we got a problem." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Well, I know school's almost over. It's a cyberbullying incident because in the school, if there's any pictures being sent from the school that is offensive or could be portrayed as bullying, it's the school's responsibility to deal with it." So they said to me, "Sharon, it's your daughter." And I'm like, "What?" No. And they said, yeah, this is what she did. She sent a picture over on social media making fun of a kid smoking a cigarette at prom. And she sent it from homeroom. And the kid came down and said, "I've had enough." The kid went downstairs and said, "I've had enough. I've been bullied online. I'm tired of it. It's nobody's business if I smoke cigarettes. People are making fun of me all the time for how I look and how I dress. I've had enough." Third to last day from graduating from high school. And the principal said, "What are we going to do, Sharon?" I said, "Well, what would you do with any other kid?" She got suspended in school. She spent her last day of high school in in-school suspension. She cried and cried and cried and begged me. And she's like, "I didn't mean to do anything wrong. I didn't mean it, Mom. I would never bully anybody. I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to do it." I said, "Well, there's consequences. When you push send, it never goes away. It's there forever. Now you're going to remember this, Lexi, the rest of your life." She was devastated. She ended up writing a really nice card to this kid and said, "I never meant to bully you. I never, ever meant to break a rule. I'm so sorry." And they did talk. And he said, "I'm sorry that you had to spend suspension. I never would have told on you if I would have known you'd be in suspension on your last day of school." And she said, "Well, that's okay." And they were fine. And she, on her own, did the card. But she'll never forget that. And it's because she pushed send. She knew the rules. These kids don't get it they know the rules and they still do it. So that's really a big piece of social media. You have to follow the rules, and if you push send, it's never, ever, ever going to go away. It's going to be out there forever.
Right.
So,
and this is someone without a diagnosed disability.
This is a
These are
senior
all
in high
things,
school.
everything we're talking about here, people with a disability are at a disadvantage, but truly everything we're speaking about today could be for any young person.
Any kid in transition age.
Yes.
Any kid.
Absolutely. And something else I want to touch on with social media is the understanding of friends. And, that also leads into our last part of the slide, the friend, acquaintance, or bully. It's so common that our loved ones will be, getting followers on Instagram or they're getting friends on Facebook. And they don't understand that just because you're friends on Facebook, that isn't the same as having a real life friend with true connections and true camaraderie and true conversations. So again, using Christian as an example, he has a number of Facebook friends, people he went to school with, who to this day really don't keep in touch with him. He doesn't quite understand the idea of what I like to call the highlight reel, which is those people that will friend you on Facebook and they want to see, you know, maybe your graduation party or your acceptance letter from college or your birthday. But they may not want to connect on a daily basis. So if we have someone who thinks all of these people are my friends and you're sending messages, so let's use as an example a female. If you're sending a message over and over to a female, maybe 20 times and not getting a response. Hi, how are you? You looked pretty in class today. Hey, do you want to hang out sometime? Over and over and over. How might that female react? I know everyone's probably thinking it. Anyone want to guess? Creeped out. Creeped out, right? Stalker. Mm-hmm. So this happened to him. This was something that happened to him in a previous job where he was reaching out to a colleague, wanted to hang out after work, you know, worked a couple registers away from her, and would send her all these messages, made a comment about her new hairstyle. Wow, that looks really pretty on you. Hey, do you want to hang out sometime? Kept saying hi. Why aren't you talking to me? I don't understand. I thought you were my friend. What did she do? You're darn right, and he no longer works there. And he wasn't taken seriously. And I had a conversation with him about this, and what he said, and this is what grabbed at me, being someone who promotes self-care and healthy relationships and knowing those boundaries. Mom, why didn't you tell me? That's what he said to me. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't understand that's how this works. I thought she was my friend. She said she wanted to be my friend on Facebook. Why aren't we talking more? He didn't understand that type of relationship. So it's so important, again, for anyone, not just somebody with a disability, but any of our young folks. They need to understand how social media works and about that etiquette. So important. So how can we encourage all of these things? How do we teach it? And how do we help them value it? So there's several resources and ways that we can approach this. The first is role-playing through conversations. Has anyone used role-playing, storytelling pictures to teach some of these concepts?
You like
Yeah?
it? Does it work for you?
Does it work for you?
That's how I've been able to make good friends on the internet.
So that's how you make good friends, and you do the video modeling and role-playing. Good, good.
Very good.
Anybody ever hear of the Circles program? Everybody?
Yeah.
So the Circles program is really great if you're working with somebody or you have a family member with an intellectual disability. It teaches boundaries by colors of circles. The one circle to walk away with today is the purple circle. That is the big one.
Remember the purple circle.
And at work where I work today, people come up to me and be like, purple circle. And purple circles where you're not going to hug the person that works at Walmart. You're going to say hello to them. You're not going to hug them. You're going to have your personal space. But that's a great resource to be able to teach somebody just about different social boundaries. But I feel like I use the purple circle a lot.
Yes, absolutely. A favorite presenter of ours about anti-bullying efforts, not just in school, but throughout the lifespan, is Dr. Claudio Cirolo. So you can look up his website, Teach Anti-Bullying. He does work throughout schools and organizations all about anti-bullying efforts and how we can keep people safe. So he's another favorite resource of ours.
Oh, go back, sorry. My bad. Well, I don't know how to go back. I'm brushing this.
There we
it is.
go. Okay. Yesterday, you may have seen the Healthy Relationships curriculum at the exhibit hall. That is a full curriculum that was first introduced by Dr. Larry Sutton, if anyone's ever heard his name. Very well known throughout the state of Pennsylvania. He's worked with the Bureau of Autism. He does a lot with autism trainings and trainings on sexuality, also in the church organization. So a lot of expertise there. And what the Healthy Relationships curriculum does is there's pre and post testing. So you were talking earlier about assessment. You know, there were some questions about how do we test their knowledge and see what do they know and what do they need to learn. This curriculum will give that pre and post testing, uses repetitive video modeling and teaching the content and the role playing, all about self-care and hygiene and sexuality and socialization. So it covers those three genres. And then the last I will give back to you, Sharon, is Ulvaeus.
The Ulvaeus Bullying Prevention Program. 4 components to it. There's a class component, there's a school-wide component, community, and individual component. If you are in a school district, there are plenty of grants available through Highmark right now that will implement this in your school. If you're somebody becoming an adult, It's always good just to know what bullying is. Remember, bullying is repetitive, and there's always an imbalance of power, okay? So it's a big piece. How can you, if you're being bullied, what can you do? Remember, talk to somebody. Don't ever feel bad about talking to somebody. I tell people all the time in transition age meetings, talk to your friend. Talk to somebody and say, look, I'm feeling like something's not right here. I'm being bullied. You could even talk to the person you think is bullying you. I think that's really important. If at work, you could check with your human resource department and ask, did you guys have a policy for this?
Yeah.
If you're at school, ask your school, do you have a policy for bullying?
Policy?
You know, I think that's a really important thing. I mean, bullies win when you're upset. Bullies will win when you're upset. That's something to remember. If you're not comfortable with a situation,
Leave.
you have a right to leave.
Yes.
You always have a right to leave. Here's the biggest slide that I think is real important for you to know, for everybody that's transition age in here, and and again, remember the reverse of it. What you learn, everybody else has that same right.
Yes.
Those are your fundamental human rights. Don't ever forget those. You have the right to be treated with respect. You have the right to express your opinions and your feelings, your own priorities. You have the right to say no without feeling guilty. You have the right to get what you pay for. You have the right to have opinions different than others. You have the right to take care and protect yourself from being threatened physically, mentally, and emotionally. And you have the right to your own happy and healthy life.
Yes.
As long as you're not harming others, you have the right to stand up for yourself and defend your rights. On the other hand, if you bring harm to others, you may forfeit those rights.
Yes.
Do not forget that.
Right.
You will forfeit those rights. Yes?
Yes.
He says he understood.
Sure. So you're asking if there's a language barrier and you feel like you're being bullied. Who can you go talk to? I would go to a friend. You could go to, is it at school?
In school?
So if it's in school, then I would absolutely go to your guidance counselor. And you want to ask that guidance counselor, is there a policy in the handbook? And is there a program that's supposed to be being implemented in the school? Those
And
two
if there's
questions.
a need for translation, I would ask for that resource. Sometimes you can even use something like Google Translate to take that document and translate it in a way that can be understood.
Say they already had the meeting,
Yes.
and they still haven't resolved that issue. What's your next step?
Your next step is to probably get a mediator. I would go to your principal and let them know that if you want to know the difference between bullying and harassment, you want to know if this is a civil rights issue, and that you're ready to go talk to an attorney.
Absolutely. So her question was about what to do if you've had your meeting take place and there are still issues going on. Remembering, an IEP is a working document, and you can request a meeting again at any time. You could open it once a week if you wanted to. That is your right. You are the team leader. You are in control. So if there's not something being done, it is your right to ask for it.
I'm going to give everybody the number real quick because it's 1 minute to 2, and then we can answer questions. DRM 749. That's today's DRM 749. Okay.
And on here is our contact information. You can reach me at Achieving True Self. You can reach Sharon at ACHIEVA. I have my blog listed for anyone interested in reading our journey. Thank you so much for attending today. You've been a great audience, and we appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody. We're here for questions if anybody has questions.